After the semester in Improvising Cyborgs, I feel like I've really grown as an artist of many media. As I mentioned in class, there's a particular thrill that comes from performing in a group with no prepared material. In the beginning, it's kind of like roulette, as no one is quite sure of what's going to happen until we begin playing, when the group slowly builds in and develops out ideas together. Working with Jacob, Katie, Amanda, and Colin on Hat Shuffle was definitely the highlight of my experience in the class. Our first performance was not nearly as successful as our second, which highlights what we learned about how our performance rules affected the success of the piece, and exactly how much communication it would take to execute such a modular performance. Determining the timing and frequency of the hat changes was most difficult. We first considered asking everyone in the class to change our hats just once, but we realized that that would be far too many people involved. So, for our first performance, we reduced this number down to about a third of the class, and asked that they only change our hats 3 times. The problem with this was that we really had no idea how long we had been playing, and we were so entrenched in the changing of hats that we didn't play with much intention or communicate with each other. Our performance ended up being about 10 minutes long with little substance. To add to this, our performance was not balanced at all, visually or sonically. The audience couldn't hear the drum pad, the little bits were far too quiet, and the drawing board was behind the instruments and quite literally pushed in a corner, which only drew from the performance. Some of our changes going into the second performance were more obvious than others. For starters, we knew we needed to change up the instrumentation. We swapped drumsticks for shakers and changed the way we played everything. We attached the ukulele to a feedback distorting max patch and laid the bass down on the table so we could use extended techniques on both. This, combined with properly amplifying the little bits and positioning the drawing pad in front of the center ground of the performance, were key changes that unified the group without losing the texture that each piece produced. When the performance time came, rather than limiting our cooperative audience on how much they could do, we had only a few volunteers who could swap our hats as much as they wished during the performance, and we handled the length by simply using a timer. This allowed our volunteers to be as creative and silly as they wished, without worrying about swapping too many times or taking too long. This even influenced a participant to remove all but 2 of our hats, limiting us to 2 performers while 3 did nothing, which was the fewest we had had at any point. It was a really fun and different experience that none of us had expected. Throughout the second performance, it was clear that all of us were far more sensitive and open to communication than we were in the first. Our transitions between instruments were smoother, we got the opportunity to move around a lot more, and there was so much more energy present in the air. The effort to move away from rhythmic instruments toward more abstract and ambient sounds really allowed us to get into the performance and move with it, which was our greatest success of all.